Derek Savage, an icon of cult memehood in the mid-2010s, now a little more than a punchline that flares up on occasion, kinda like a poison ivy rash. To give a brief background on Derek Savage, and no, I doubt that's his real name, he's an LA-based writer and filmmaker who sprung into notoriety with his self-funded anti-bullying kids film entitled Cool Cat Saves the Kids, starring his original character, Cool Cat, who had previously appeared in his illustrated children's books. Despite not exactly being high art, the film attained notoriety in the mid-2010s when creators such as Your Movie Sucks, I Hate Everything, and Bob Show made reviews criticizing its bizarre writing and editing, creepy undertones, and the ego of Derek Savage himself. Not long after Cool Cat attained its ironic fan base, Savage would go on a campaign of issuing copyright strikes, spreading misinformation about fair use, openly threatening creators who mocked his film, and in one instance, allegedly impersonating a law firm to scare compliance out of I Hate Everything. The irony of the creator of an anti-bullying property bullying others into submission was not lost on anyone. Fortunately, none of Savage's tactics incurred significant damage, and the whole debacle faded into the background. Nowadays, Savage is still making Cool Cat projects, most recently Cool Cat vs. Dirty Dog, The Virus Wars, but he's been mostly relegated to his own little corner of the web, a nutty little inside joke to those who were there from the start. As mentioned before, Savage penned several Cool Cat books before the movie, in which the fun-loving feline explores the wonders of baseball, wrestling, the beach, green energy, and every branch of the United States military. And no, I don't know why his website looks like a mock-up of a parody of a poorly designed website. Don't ask. Among his other properties are Trolley the Trout, in which the titular trout gets in all sorts of hilarious and heartwarming adventures, such as making friends, recovering stolen necklaces, and finding discarded guns on the lake bed. But don't worry, for all you non-Cool Cat fans, or perhaps Trolley the Trout haters out there, Derek has a few other works that might pique your interest. Like Sweet Revenge, about the Vipers street gang who murders James Swanson's family, so he and his brother and friends team up to get their sweet revenge, aided by an assortment of weapons that could rock the US military. We're also promised that Sweet Revenge has little to no profanity with a message of racial unity, so at least the book's socially aware. We have The Dancer, a male stripper story, probably based on true events, since Derek Savage modeled for Playgirl before making the logical turn towards children's entertainment. And I Have Cancer, a serious-themed medical marijuana movie. I mean, how could you not think it's serious by looking at the cover art and the font choice? This lady is a perfect representation of the audience trying to make sense of the title, marijuana leaf included. But at present, the highlight of Savage's literary endeavors is his newest novel, Apocalypse, The Second Coming. The back cover speaks of the world turning crazy after the disappearance of Brandon's fiancée, of the president turning tyrant and forming the New World Order, of God bringing about the signs of rapture. Truly an epic of revelatory proportions. Savage even took to Cool Cat's Twitter account recently to promote the book, promising us that it's the cornerstone of all his work, and that we have never read anything like it. I'm sure, Derek. And now Cool Cat has eyes on me. So I guess I have to review Apocalypse, The Second Coming. Jesus, my Lord and Savior, what do they do to you, man? Looking like you were plucked from a Monty Python cartoon and garnished with the word art from the 2000s. Cover design by Derek Savage. I never would have guessed. The webpage also warns us to be sure we're in our safe space. Apparently this novel is so grandiose and disturbing that we'll get #triggered. Maybe we'll cry. Maybe we'll piss and shit and cum. I'm shaking, Derek Savage. Quivering in my boots. But fortunately, I have read every Five Nights at Freddy's book. So maybe, just maybe, I'm ready. And now for the review of Apocalypse, The Second Coming. Wait a minute. I just watched YMS's videos again as a sort of refresher, so something about this book cover looks familiar.
The writer of such classic pieces of literature like Sweet Revenge, The Dancer, a male stripper story, and God's Thunder, an awesome story that will amaze you at every page.
So God's Thunder is still on Derek Savage's old website under the novels and scripts section, yet clicking on that link specifically gives you a 404 error. Yet on Savage's new website, Apocalypse: The Second Coming takes the place of God's Thunder and leads you to its respective page. Did Derek Savage cannibalize his own book from 10 years ago and repackage it with a totally different title? Oh my god. He did. With the exception of rearranging certain words and changing the protagonist's name from Jonathan to Brandon, the first chapter of God's Thunder is identical to the first chapter of Apocalypse: The Second Coming. Derek. What the hell, man? You can't do that. Even if you only copy the first chapter, as I haven't read the rest of God's Thunder. What kind of game are you playing? Is this funny to you? Do you care about honesty, integrity, artistry? Never read anything like it. Yeah, bite me. But anyway, the actual book. The only way to describe Apocalypse: The Second Coming story is a play-by-play recounting of the events as seen in the biblical book of Revelation unfurling in the modern day. And I do mean play-by-play, because every single thing that happens in the book is followed by the corresponding verse in Revelation. Just in case you were curious about where Derek got his inspiration from. Our protagonist is this guy named Brandon, whose wife Lisa gets raptured early on, and I think I just realized why he changed the name from Jonathan to Brandon. That's because there already was an infamous couple named Johnny and Lisa.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
And he basically spends the whole book stumbling through the half-abandoned streets lamenting how he didn't accept Jesus sooner, but then he gets killed and ends up joining God's army anyway. So my guy didn't really lose or learn much, did he? The Vice President of the United States is the Beast, and this random preacher named Jack Smitty is the Antichrist. And together they establish the New World Order, which involves taking over all the world's businesses and governments and branding their followers with the mark of the beast, which looks like this for some reason. And despite them wanting to deny earthbound humans to God's kingdom, they start killing them anyway, automatically making them into martyrs? You're kind of missing the point, Satan. I thought you're supposed to be subtle, guiding the sheep to their own damnation via the simple path. What happened to you, man? There's also this framing device, and I use that term loosely, where in the year 90 AD, John of Patmos, the widely agreed upon author of Revelation, is taken up to heaven to witness the apocalypse happen. But the apocalypse happens in the modern day, so John was taken from 90 AD to 2024 to witness it, and then sent back to 90 AD to write the book of Revelation? Yeah, we're introducing time travel hijinks to biblical canonicity. Why did you feel the need to include that, Savage? It adds nothing to the story. Following that, the actual writing is terrible. Spelling errors, unhinged dialogue, and nonsensical scenes aside, this awe-inspiring cataclysmic tale is told like a little kid recounting how cool something is. The angels who break the seals and pour the vials are like, "Check this out! You haven't seen anything like this!" While all the world's waters turn to blood and locusts eat people alive.
Sci-fi original movie, Locust.
And with every apocalyptic horror he sees, John of Patmos just gets more and more hyped, saying things like, "Whoa, it just keeps getting better." What, you didn't know that John of Patmos saw all these horrible visions and reacted like he was watching a monster truck show? It says so right here in Revelation, where it's just a giant middle finger popping out at the viewer. There are these little vignettes peppered throughout the story featuring bad people getting affected by each individual disaster, and of course Derek Savage has to make them as comically godless and evil as possible to get his point across, and that point is, believe in Jesus or else you're a bad person who deserves God's wrath. Derek Savage writes with the subtlety of a child banging around action figures and making ray gun noises with his mouth. Regardless of your thoughts on God or the Bible or religion, Revelation is still a bizarre, wildly creative piece of literature that rivals the most fantastical stories we know today. Despite the absurd imagery, it's still written in a manner that exudes solemnity and reverence, and the reader can't help but admire the sheer majesty on display. Savage chooses to convey Revelation as a Michael Bay film, a whole bunch of explosions punctuated with cool modern-day catchphrases. Every religious figure sounds like a dude bro. The violence and horror as depicted has no gravity or impact. It just kinda happens to these people and is over and done with in a paragraph or two. Savage is clearly religious, but his understanding of religion seems both shallow and gratuitous. It is very possible and doable to make a multi-layered and dignified yet visceral and exciting story about the prophecies in Revelation coming true. Yet Savage simply emphasizes the coolness of what he read in the Bible and presents a surface-level experience no deeper than a Saturday morning superhero cartoon. Additionally, the racial component in this book has the subtlety of a lake of fire and brimstone. Savage tries to inject an anti-racist component into the story, but here's how he actually chooses to portray it. One of the vignettes features a black woman named Joyce who is almost immediately killed by a skinhead whose first line of dialogue is, "Yeehaw, I just got me the urge to kill a..." Yeah, it's the hard R. A massive Klan rally shows up in Washington, D.C., spurned by the evil vice president, who remember is actually the great beast of Revelation, but they're devoured by locusts in the span of about 10 pages, and nothing more comes out of this. When we have vignettes in non-white countries, one's in Africa, and the protagonist is named Zulu, spelled like this though, her entire tribe is dying of AIDS, and then they're all eaten by lions. The second time is in China, where a man says, and I kid you not, "Oh no, my ass is chop suey." And then a half-conscious woman sees a massive silhouette above her and wonders if it's the Great Godzilla. Now, I know Godzilla is a worldwide cultural icon, but if you told me that Savage believes Godzilla originated in China, I'd believe you. And lastly, if I called out every instance of weird phrasing and insane dialogue, we'd be here all day. So instead, here's a few of my favorites. A woman gets stabbed in the gut with a butcher's knife, and the follow-up question is, did she get hurt? A lit match blows up a helium blimp. Wasn't there an episode of Archer about this?
But isn't hydrogen flammable?
And how, Timmy? That's why Excelsior is filled with safe, natural helium. Why, it's actually flame retardant.
A good-tempered collie gets raptured while a mean pit bull gets left behind. Apparently Jesus Christ is breed-specific. He purred like a little kitty cat. That's just fucking creepy, Derek. Don't ever write or say those words again. The racist grabbed his neck like someone had stabbed him in a prison shower. I can't lie. I'm petrified. Joe humped the towel like a sex object. Somehow the oceans worldwide have been turned into blood and our scientists are completely baffled as to why. An angel about to raise the Earth's temperature. So, you like the song, Burn, Baby Burn. Disco Inferno? Watch this. And finally, the words sweet revenge are capitalized in this passage as a blatant reference to Derek's previous work, Sweet Revenge. This doesn't even scratch the surface of the Derek Savage-isms present in this book. It has to be read to be believed. But, you know what? I honestly don't know if I, in good faith, can recommend this book. Not because it's psychotically bad, but because it's apparent that this is just a reskin of another book Derek wrote 10 years ago. For those who know, Derek's pulled similar stunts before. Repackaging old work and selling it as a new experience is his MO apparently. As far as egregious literary stunts go, this isn't terrible. At least Derek actually wrote it, unlike the AI books I previously looked at. And this book is hilarious. I did have a blast reading it. But if you choose to purchase this book for yourself, understand what exactly you're getting and what you're inadvertently incentivizing by doing so. And as unhinged as it is, that's its only redeeming quality, and I mean that ironically. And ironic enjoyment only goes so far in my eyes. But maybe that's just me. If you want to read something batshit insane and awful, this book might do it for you. But I completely understand if you'd rather not. For a Bible's worth of reasons.
Children, I have been burdened with an unholy work straight from the hands of the devil himself. A book that not only preaches damnation, but sows damnation upon those foolish enough to lay eyes upon it. I call upon the angels of heaven to shower God's wrath upon this perverse abomination of all that is good. Now, unleash the horns of revelation. Cleanse this wicked tome with the noise of the Lord.